yeah, you want to be focusing a lot more on that sort of making sure that you come back up nice and high after a jibe to catch that initial bit of pressure. Otherwise you just sort of slow the whole maneuver down and then it takes you more time. So you really want to be able to stick it, like sort of have that power in the rig to start off with, so you make sure you're in that power zone with that breeze, and then you send it round. Obviously the centrifugal force is going to push you all through into the middle of the boat, or out of the boat, which is not ideal, but you know, you're holding on, so hold on to sort of foot straps or the main sheet or the tiller or whatever, and as you come through and you push that boat round and through up into the wind the next way, onto a new jibe, into that power zone to catch that initial bit of pressure, because it also helps flush that kite out and around the front as well, because obviously if you don't push it through enough, it won't it'll get stuck and it won't get flowed through nicely. Right. So when you're going downwind, you have that main sheet pinned in. You look at what that does to the top of the sail up there. You can see that the leech of the sail is nice and hooked and is really closed off. We talk about easing the main sheet out a little bit.
When you say the leech, what do you mean by that?
So the back edge of the sail.
Okay.
So the back edge of the sail there is very closed off, and it closes that square top where there's a lot of power is generated in that top, which is giving you a lot of righting moment. If I ease the main sheet out, so I'm going to ease it out, 1, 2, 3 fistfuls. You can see how much that just opens it up at the top there.
Yeah.
If I do another 3, you notice how much that changes?
Yeah.
And if that mast rotation, you know, when you're going downwind, it's functioning right. That's out there because the pressure's coming in. That opens it out nicely to allow that pressure to push onto that top part of the sail, which is ultimately what pushes that leeward bow into the water a lot more. So people often say pin your main sheet in downwind because it keeps that leeward bow out and allows that hook to just stay at the top there and keep it closed. If we open it up a little bit, obviously you open it up too much, you're going to open it up to the point that that leeward bow will go in. If you only open it up a little bit, with a few inches, few fistfuls, I usually do about an arm's length or arm's extension length, and that's roughly where it should be from your upwind main sheet block position to your downwind block position. It's only ever that, you know, that sort of amount, but it makes all the difference to that leeward bow control. So as you're going downwind, use the rudders as well here. So watch your legs so I don't want to whack anyone this week. As I'm going downwind sailing with the kite, if I'm watching that front edge, when you're going to catch the pressure, obviously you're bearing up into the power zone, so you're doing a slight push. And I do an ease at the same time to open that sail to catch that pressure in the top there and in that belly. And then as you feel that pressure come into the kite and come into the rig, and you need to then suddenly do that bear away, you then pull the rudders towards you and sheet the main back on. That hooks that top, closes off that top pressure up there, and stops that leeward bow from going into the water and digging in. So one of the main focuses today, I want to see a lot of, is basically people trying to find that sweet spot on that mainsail. All mainsails are cut different. No sails are no two sails are identical. They all stretch at different rates. They all flex at different rates. The centre of the sail is in different places. When you find that sweet spot, you'll know how you'll feel the boat just drive forwards, and that's like the main important thing with sailing. You want to drive that, get that hull out and drive forwards rather than keel over, left side to side. It's always the balance of the main sheet, the downhaul, and the other elements. But with the kite, we're just focusing on that sort of main sheet where that sweet spot is, to just create that forward drive with that bow just cutting in. If I on the bow, you want this leeward bow here to be, obviously imagine it tilted slightly, but that water line to be cutting in, this cutting through that water here at this point, just because that is where the optimal drive forwards is. Obviously imagine it's rotated slightly because this windward hull would be hopefully out of the water with a little bit of daggerboard in, and that sort of their drive is where you want this water to be cutting through here. You can control that with that literal arm movement of main sheet, and it's just important to try and remember that if you can't find it, you can find it on one boat, you can't find it on another. It's usually just due to it's going to be in a different place. It's always, you know, sort of further out than where you'd have the blocks upwind. But yeah, it literally is all in that tiny little movement. So obviously this is pulling the mast back. Usually you have the kite pulling the mast forward as well. But it is literally in that movement there. You can see how much it closes it off and opens it up. And literally, what's that? That's my forearm's length there.
Okay.
So that control is what we're going to look for today. Obviously we've got a sailing area out there, the windward mark and the leeward mark. The ferry's just gone out now, a couple of minutes ago. If we stay close to those buoys, and when the ferry's not there, we can use that left-hand side a little bit more. There's usually a little bit more breeze on that left-hand side underneath that mountain in the morning. So it's a lot better to sort of get that grasp of where that sweet spot is. Feel free to sort of move your body weight about as well. I'm not going to talk about 5 essentials today or tomorrow. Depends what I wrote. Push the rudders, ease the main to come up and catch that pressure in the power zone. And then when you get that power in the power zone, you start that bear away process. You sort of smoothly bear off with that hull popping out. You squeeze on that little bit of main, close off that sail, and it just holds that pressure in the sail and keeps driving you forwards. And as you feel that pressure start to fall out of the sail and no longer be in the rig, you then at that point, you know, ease the main again and push the rudders away again. And that kind of push, pull is like the sort of helps you with that S-ing motion and getting that control over the kite. It's a really big control element is the main sheet, which is why people here always say pin it in. But if you understand that sort of opening of the leech up the top there, that sort of control element, I know that when I learned that factor up the top, I found cat sailing with a kite so much easier, and I think I've only ever stuck it in once since I did that, and that was a fluky gust. So it's that main sheet control at the top there. It's a constant thing, and it's more work for the helms, but it's a constant adjustment. Actually, just creates such a nice driving force forwards that it becomes a lot smoother. So if that's good with everyone, has anyone got any questions on that? Yeah, go for it.
So I'm on an FX1, how the hell am I going to do all of that? I just typically pin that in somewhere in the middle and then control the rudder and the...
On the FX1s, when you're single-handing, it's a lot easier with the kite up. It's trying to find that sweet spot because every sail's different and sort of roughly feeling what that's reading. But obviously every sail's different, so you're not going to just jump on and find it straight away. It's just find that sort of experimentation part of when you go round that windward mark and you pull the kite up, have the main sheet in, and then once you've got the kite in, ease a little bit of main, and you'll suddenly see that on the FX, the water line starts hitting a little bit further under the bow, so a little bit more main sheet pinned in. That's where the water starts hitting the boat, and this part is usually out of the water or cutting through little bits of chop. If you then start to ease that main, you'll notice this part start to bury. Okay. And at that point, it will start cutting through a little bit higher on the bow, which is what you ideally want. Obviously, you then still have your weight back on the trapeze or like in the boat, and it will keep that hull balanced. And once you find that sweet spot on the main sheet, you'll find that actually you can shuffle your weight forwards, shuffle your weight back, and that will control that bow as well.
But I can then just cleat that in and
you can cleat that and leave that and play the kite. And then when you ease the kite, it will create a big bag, and obviously that will try and pull you down. It's the counterintuitiveness of sheeting it back in will actually help pop the bow back out again and moving your weight back. It is counterintuitive that when you get that pressure in the kite to sheet the main back in rather than ease it out, which is why it's actually quite good to practice in the mornings here where it's nice and light. In the afternoons, well, you don't really see many people put the kites up here in the afternoons. So
I wonder.
Yeah, but like because it's that counterintuitiveness. It's like that's why the C2 booms bent, because some people, you know, adapting to that counterintuitivity of sheeting the main back in when you've got that pressure, rather than easing it out more, which people think is, you know, first way to depower. They went over and one of them landed on the boom instead of jumping out the back, which was sad to see when it came back up. knowing that, knowing what happens up there makes it a lot easier. But it also, you're fighting however many years of sailing experience instinct to sheet that main back in rather than ease it out on these square top main caps, essentially. Is that sort of
Yeah. It's more when I've only got 2 hands.
That's why I talk about finding the sweet spot.
Yeah.
Because if you can find the sweet spot, you don't always need to constantly ease it or play it. If you've got a crew, it's a lot easier to do that. But on things like the FX1s or other boats that you might single hand with a kite, if you can find that sweet spot with the main sheet, you can actually just find that sweet spot, pin it there, and then leave it on the cleat there. And you can just, if the breeze is picking up slightly, you can just squeeze a little bit back on a little bit later. But further on, you can just sit with that main sheet there and just be focusing on the kite.
Because every time you come to the back of my boat, you tell me to ease the main sheet off.
Ease the main sheet off, because you're just
learning slowly.
You're hooking it, and then it just doesn't open up for that flow to happen. So yeah, it's that sort of constant flow over those sails that is what's driving you forwards.
But the rescue movement is still bearing away if it's in a sudden too much.
Yeah, it's the trick is to sort of find that bear away point. You bear away, keep that hull out, and then feel when that power is about to leave the boat and sort of starts leaving the boat. And when it does, you sort of lightly start to push away again, and that sort of sorts you out that way. But is that clear for everyone?
We have to keep the traveller in the middle.
Yeah, keep the traveller in the middle, because otherwise, if you open up that traveller and then suddenly the mainsail's out like that, it's a big wad for the wind to just push against. Obviously it's good because the belly down here drives you forwards, but when you've got that belly up the top there that's opening up as well, that's what's going to push the boat, the bows down and in. So yeah, keep that traveller in the centre, and then all you're doing is literally just opening and closing that leech. I don't know if without reattaching it, I reckon. If you can sort of go, if your traveller's out there, you open it up massively to the wind coming off your back quarter. But if you're closed here, and then you just put that main sheet on and you go like that, it just closes it off a little bit more. And that little movement and the boom down here, I'm moving that from there to there, it opens it up so much that it restricts so much wind pushing the wrong direction. It allows for your apparent wind to kick in and then come from a lot more of this kind of angle. So suddenly your apparent will kick in and it will start coming from here, maybe a little bit more where the bike is, and this sort of angle. And at that point you can start driving a little bit lower because that hull will pop out of the water. Daggerboard will be kicking in because you want the water just like skimming underneath this hull with the daggerboard and cutting the daggerboard without rarely touching this hull. Yeah, if there's enough breeze, I might hop on a couple of boats, but it depends if there's enough breeze that we can get it out of the water, essentially. If that's all clear with everyone.